Agnes gives birth to their first child, a daughter, alone in the forest, and the couple begin their life together. William continues working in his father's glove business, but grows increasingly resentful. He eventually fights back against his father's abuse and leaves. He focuses more seriously on writing, though frustration and alcohol begin to affect him. He feels confined in Stratford. Agnes recognizes that his ambitions will not fit within the town's limits and urges him to seek work in London, where theaters are flourishing. He leaves, promising to send for them once he is established. While Agnes is pregnant again, a violent storm strikes Stratford. As her labor begins, she insists on going into the forest to give birth, just as she had done before. She believes she is meant to deliver her children there, close to the land. She tries to leave the house despite the worsening weather, but the river has burst its banks and flooded the surrounding fields. The path to the forest is impassable. She panics, fearing that being forced to remain inside will cost her child's life. She remembers her own mother's death, and the sense that children are quickly forgotten. She does not want her child to be lost or unnamed. With no way out, she is restrained and must give birth inside the house. The labor is long and painful. She delivers a son they name Hamnet. Moments later, it becomes clear that she is carrying a second child. She gives birth to a girl who appears lifeless. The women around her assume the baby is stillborn, but Agnes refuses to let her be taken away. She does not believe children simply pass upward into a distant heaven. She believes they remain near in the air, in the land, in the spaces between the living and the dead. She holds the child, speaks to her, and wills her to breathe. After tense moments, the baby stirs and begins to cry. The twins, Hamnet and Judith, survive. 11 years pass. The children grow up in a house divided between absence and anticipation. Their father returns periodically from London, bringing stories of actors and stages. The twins are inseparable and often exchange clothes to trick their family. They perform scenes, recite lines, and show an early love of drama. Agnes teaches them about plants and memory. Meanwhile, William's career advances. After one visit, he leaves again. His son, who is deeply attached to him, cries as he departs. Agnes comforts her son and predicts that he will one day thrive in London, perhaps even on the stage. In London, William witnesses the fear surrounding the plague. Back in Stratford, illness reaches their home. Judith falls sick first, burning with fever. Agnes uses every remedy she knows. Herbs, heated water, careful tending. The household prepares for the worst. Hamnet stays by his sister's side and in a moment of desperate love, begs the sickness to take him instead. He promises to be brave. Judith recovers miraculously, but Hamnet begins to show the same symptoms. His condition deteriorates rapidly. Agnes remains beside him, trying every treatment, refusing to surrender him. In his fever, he seems to wander through an empty house, calling for her. Despite her efforts, he dies in her arms and her cry fills the house. His sisters see his body and struggle to comprehend what has happened. William returns from London too late. He can only stand over his son and repeat that this is his boy. The grief between husband and wife is immediate and raw. Agnes describes Hamnet's suffering in detail. William is overcome by guilt for not being present. Agnes blames herself as well, and says that she can no longer see the future as she once did. When William announces that he must return to London for the new theatrical season, Agnes is angry. She cannot understand how the world can continue as though nothing has happened, but he leaves anyway. In London, William begins writing a new tragedy. He pushes his actors to dig deeper into their roles, demanding emotional truth rather than mechanical recitation. He is particularly harsh with the young actor playing the prince. Alone by the river, he quietly murmurs the words "to be or not to be," testing them aloud as he wrestles with his own despair. Back in Stratford, Agnes learns that his new play is titled The Tragedy of Hamlet. The similarity of the name to their sons is impossible to ignore. She travels to London with her brother to see it performed. The theater is crowded. As the play begins, Agnes watches intently. She reacts audibly at times, unsettled by hearing her son's name spoken on stage. The story unfolds. A prince grieving his dead father, haunted by a ghost, unable to move beyond loss. When William appears as the ghost of Hamlet's father, she realizes that he has placed himself inside the narrative of grief. Gradually, she understands that the play is not a mockery of their son, but a transformation of their loss. The prince's sorrow mirrors the emptiness left by Hamlet's death. During a key scene, as the prince confronts the ghost, Agnes silently beckons her husband in the audience, as she once did on their wedding day. He deepens his performance, speaking as though he is addressing his own child. At the end of the play, Hamlet dies. The audience stretches out their hands toward him as he delivers his final lines. In that moment, Agnes envisions Hamnet standing on the stage, looking back at her, before disappearing into the shadows backstage. The image does not erase her grief, but it reshapes it for the first time since her son's death. She allows herself to smile. The film closes with the sense that while a child's life cannot be restored, memory can be carried forward in another form. The film Hamnet was released in 2025 and won numerous awards. Its biggest breakthrough is shifting the focus from Shakespeare to Agnes, the wife forgotten by history. Historically, Shakespeare's wife has often been simplified into the stereotype of a rural woman. However, the film portrays her as an independent woman, deeply connected to nature, knowledgeable about herbal medicine, and even labeled as a, quote, forest witch. From her perspective, the film tells the creative journey behind one of humanity's greatest tragedies, Hamlet. This is not just a story about Shakespeare. More precisely, it is the story of a father, a husband, a man torn between greatness and loss. Above all, it is the story of Agnes, the woman forgotten by history, who devoted her entire life to supporting a genius, yet left behind not a single word of her own. History always remembers the one who shines, but rarely asks, who was the one holding the light behind them? It was she who pushed that man toward greatness. Yet he left, stepping into a larger world, leaving her alone in a small town, caring for their children, the family, and enduring the days of his absence. She opened that door for him, then stood alone at the threshold, waiting for the occasional breeze to return from the world beyond it. This is not just a tragedy, it is the reality for many women. She fulfilled someone else's grand dreams, but no one ever asked, what about her own? However, when it comes to the death of their son, Agnes is somewhat narrow in perspective. She believes that only she suffers, only she truly loved their child. But often, a man's love is silent. Some people's tears are not on their faces, but deep within their hearts. They may not collapse and cry with you, but they will write your name into works created with all their heart and soul. By the end of the film, Agnes finally lets go. Not because the pain disappears, but because she realizes that William never forgot their son. He simply loved and remembered him in a different way.